Not every negative force enters your life through people. Some arrive quietly, as gifts, furniture, or objects you've owned for years. Nothing around you is truly lifeless. Every object you touch, sit on, wear, or keep in your home is silently recording the energy around it. Just like walls remember laughter and tears, objects absorb emotions, intentions, and experiences, even when no one is watching. When a person is happy, calm, or loving, the energy they leave behind is light. But when someone is angry, obsessed, grieving, fearful, or deeply attached, that energy doesn't disappear. It sinks into the objects closest to them. A chair that held someone during years of sorrow, a mirror that watched endless self hatred, a ring worn during a painful relationship. These objects don't forget. They hold emotional fingerprints, spiritual residue, vibrations that stay quietly alive long after the moment has passed. This is why certain items feel off the moment you touch them. You may not understand why, but your body reacts first. A heaviness in the chest, a sudden sadness, restlessness, discomfort. These are not imagination, they are energy responses. Objects that have passed through trauma, obsession, addiction, or intense rituals are especially powerful. In moments of extreme emotion, the human spirit imprints deeply. The object becomes a container, a witness, sometimes even a carrier. And the most dangerous part, these vibrations don't announce themselves. They don't scream. They influence quietly. A worn out shoe can carry the exhaustion and struggle of its former owner. A gifted item can hold jealousy, control, or unspoken intentions. Old furniture can anchor emotional cycles that keep repeating in a home: arguments, stagnation, bad luck, or constant tiredness. People often blame themselves when life feels heavy. They think, I'm lazy, I'm unlucky, something is wrong with me. But sometimes the energy doesn't belong to you, it belongs to what surrounds you. Spiritual traditions across the world have always known this truth. That's why cleansing rituals exist. That's why sacred spaces are protected. That's why some items are buried, burned, or respectfully released. Because objects remember. They remember pain. They remember obsession. They remember love. And when they sit close to us, they interact with our own energy, either lifting us or slowly draining us. This doesn't mean you should fear your belongings. It means you should respect energy. Pay attention to how things make you feel. Trust your intuition when something no longer belongs in your space. Your home should support your spirit, not carry echoes of someone else's suffering, because energy never disappears. It only waits to be acknowledged, cleansed, or released. Not every danger enters a home loudly. Some arrive quietly, wrapped in paper, passed down through generations, or picked up for free because it felt lucky. Used, gifted, or found items are risky because they don't come alone. They carry history. Every object holds the emotional fingerprints of the people who owned it before. When an item has been lived with, fought over, cried into, prayed with, or obsessed over, it absorbs those moments. And when that object changes hands, the energy doesn't reset, it transfers. Second-hand items are especially powerful because they've already been bonded to another life. A bed that witnessed sleepless nights and silent tears. A sofa that held years of tension, clothing worn during loss, fear, or desperation. These objects don't forget what they were part of. Inherited furniture is even heavier. Family items often carry generational energy, unresolved grief, repeating patterns, financial struggle, broken relationships. When something is passed down, it can also pass down emotional cycles. This is why some homes feel stuck, even when nothing seems wrong. And then there are gifts. People assume gifts are always safe because they come with smiles, but intention matters more than wrapping. A gift given during jealousy, control, guilt, or emotional attachment can quietly bind the receiver to the giver's energy. Even a well meaning gift can hold sadness, desperation, or unspoken expectations. Not all love is clean, not all kindness is light. Found objects are the most unpredictable. An item discovered on the street in an abandoned place or left behind carries unknown stories. You don't know who owned it, what they were going through, or why it was released. Some objects are thrown away not because they are broken, but because they became too heavy to keep. People often say it's just an object, but spiritually, objects act like sponges. They absorb intention, they absorb emotion, they absorb attachment. That's why, after bringing certain items home, people notice strange shifts. Sleep becomes restless, mood changes, arguments increase, motivation disappears. A sense of heaviness fills the space, even though nothing visible has changed. The energy didn't come from nowhere, it arrived with the object. Ancient spiritual practices across cultures warn about this. That's why elders cleanse gifts. That's why certain items are never accepted lightly. That's why rituals exist before bringing second-hand objects into sacred spaces, because energy is transferable. When you invite an object into your life, you are also inviting its past. This doesn't mean you must reject every gift or used item. It means you must be aware, cleanse intentionally, trust your intuition. If something makes you uncomfortable without reason, that reason exists, even if you can't see it. Your home is not just a physical space, it is a spiritual environment, and everything you allow inside it should support your peace, not carry someone else's unresolved story. Some objects don't just sit in your home, they observe you. They absorb your emotions, your habits, your pain, and your most private moments. Certain household items are especially vulnerable to negative attachments, not because they are cursed, but because of how closely they interact with human life. Shoes are one of the most underestimated carriers of energy. They touch the ground everywhere you go. They absorb stress, exhaustion, struggle, and fear. Shoes walk through hospitals, graveyards, arguments, and emotional breakdowns. When worn during hard seasons of life, they collect that heaviness step by step. This is why some shoes feel impossible to wear again, not because they are old, but because the energy is heavy. Mirrors are witnesses. They reflect more than faces. They reflect self image, insecurity, obsession, and silent self judgment. A mirror that has watched years of self hate, tears, or emotional breakdowns becomes energetically charged. In many spiritual traditions, mirrors are treated with caution because they don't just reflect, they hold. Beds are the most powerful anchors of all. They witness sleep, sickness, intimacy, fear, nightmares, and emotional vulnerability. People cry in beds, they grieve in beds, they lie awake with anxiety in beds. When a bed has absorbed trauma, heartbreak, or long term emotional distress, it can quietly pass that energy to the next person who sleeps there. This is why some people never feel rested, no matter how long they sleep. Antique furniture carries layers of history. Old chairs, cabinets, and tables have lived through other lives, other emotions, other struggles. They've stood in rooms where people argued, prayed, suffered, or passed away. The older the object, the more stories it holds. Without cleansing, antique furniture can anchor emotional cycles from the past into the present. Personal jewelry is deeply intimate. Rings, necklaces, bracelets, and watches stay close to the body. They absorb the wearer's emotions, relationships, intentions, and attachments. Jewelry worn during toxic relationships Obsession, betrayal, or loss often carries those emotional imprints. This is why some inherited or gifted jewelry feels heavy, uncomfortable, or impossible to wear. The danger of these objects is not loud or dramatic. Negative attachments influence quietly. They cause restlessness, mood shifts, emotional fatigue, recurring arguments, lack of motivation, a constant feeling that something is off in the space. People blame stress, luck, or themselves, never realizing the energy may be sitting right beside them. Spiritual wisdom across cultures teaches that objects close to the body or intimate moments become energy anchors. They don't judge, they simply store what they are exposed to. This is not about fear, it is about awareness. Your environment shapes your spirit more than you realize. What you touch daily touches you back energetically. When something feels wrong, trust that feeling. Cleanse, release, or remove what no longer supports your peace. Because your home should be a place of restoration, not a museum of unhealed emotions. And energy, once attached, stays until it is acknowledged. Negative energy rarely announces itself. It doesn't slam doors or appear as shadows in the night. Instead, it slips quietly into daily life, hiding behind exhaustion, frustration, and a feeling that something just isn't right. Most people think problems begin with people, with bad habits, bad luck, bad choices, but often the source isn't human at all, it's environmental. Negative attachments influence life subtly, repeating the same patterns until they feel normal. One of the first signs is sudden fatigue. You wake up tired no matter how long you sleep. Motivation disappears. Even simple tasks feel heavy. This exhaustion doesn't come from the body, it comes from the spirit being constantly drained. Then come recurring arguments. Small disagreements explode into major conflicts. The same arguments repeat again and again, even when no one remembers how they started. A heavy atmosphere fills the room. Words feel sharper. Patience runs thin. Negative energy feeds on emotional reactions, quietly amplifying tension. Sleep is often the next victim. People experience restless nights, vivid nightmares, or a feeling of being watched while trying to sleep. You may wake up anxious, sweating, or emotionally disturbed without knowing why. Beds and bedrooms are deeply sensitive spaces, and when negative attachments settle there, true rest becomes impossible. Financial blocks appear in strange ways. Money comes in, but disappears just as quickly. Opportunities almost work out, then fall apart at the last moment. Unexpected expenses keep repeating. This isn't always poor planning. Stagnant energy disrupts flow, creating invisible resistance in areas connected to stability and security. Over time, life feels stuck. No matter how hard you try, progress feels blocked. Goals remain unfinished. Plans delay endlessly. Creativity dries up. You feel trapped in a loop, watching others move forward while you remain in the same place. This stagnation often comes from energy that refuses to move, energy attached to objects, spaces, or unresolved emotional imprints. The most dangerous part, people blame themselves. They think they're lazy, weak, unlucky. They push harder, burn out faster, and never realize the weight they're carrying was never theirs to begin with. Negative attachments don't attack loudly. They erode quietly. They drain joy. They dull hope. They normalize heaviness until people forget what peace feels like. Spiritual traditions have always understood this. That's why cleansing rituals focus on homes, objects, and spaces, not just people, because energy shapes behavior, environment shapes emotion. What sits silently in a room influences everyone who enters it. This doesn't mean every bad day has a spiritual cause, but when the same patterns repeat without explanation, it's time to look beyond logic. Pay attention to how you feel in certain rooms. Notice where arguments begin. Observe when exhaustion lifts after leaving a space. Your body senses energy before your mind understands it. Your home should restore you, not drain you. Peace should feel natural, not rare. When heaviness lingers without reason, it may not be coming from within you. It may be coming from what's been quietly watching you all along. Not everything harmful looks dangerous. Some objects sit quietly in your home, perfectly ordinary, perfectly still, yet something about them feels off. You can't explain it. There's no logical reason, and that's exactly how intuition works. The first sign is unexplained discomfort. You may feel uneasy standing near the object, your chest tightens, your mood shifts. You avoid that corner of the room without realizing why. Nothing bad has happened, yet your body reacts anyway. This is not fear, it's awareness. Your nervous system recognizes energy long before your mind forms a story. Then come repeated accidents. You bump into the same piece of furniture again and again. Things fall only near that object. Minor injuries, broken items, sudden clumsiness, always in the same spot. These events seem random, but patterns are never random. Disruptive energy creates instability, and the body responds with imbalance. Another powerful sign is emotional heaviness. You feel drained after being near the object. Sadness appears without a clear reason. Irritation rises suddenly. The room feels dense, thick, hard to breathe in, as if the air itself is tired. This emotional weight doesn't belong to the moment, it belongs to the object's stored history. Sometimes the sign is subtler but stronger, a persistent urge to remove it. You think about throwing it away again and again. You rearrange the room to avoid it. You tell yourself, I'll get rid of it later. But the thought keeps returning. This is intuition speaking softly, repeating itself because it's being ignored. Logic tries to silence intuition. It's expensive. It was a gift. It belonged to family. I'm being dramatic, but intuition doesn't need evidence. It works through sensation, emotion, and instinct. It notices shifts in energy before words can describe them. Many people live with spiritually wrong objects for years because they don't trust themselves. They normalize discomfort. They explain away heaviness. They accept exhaustion as part of life, never realizing the source is something they walk past every day. Spiritual traditions across cultures teach that when energy becomes stagnant or corrupted, the environment reacts first. Objects crack, break, feel wrong to touch, appear in dreams, draw repeated attention. These are not coincidences, they are warnings. This doesn't mean the object is evil, it means it has absorbed more than it should hold. Pain, obsession, grief, attachment, energy that no longer belongs in your space. Your intuition is not superstition, it is a survival sense refined by experience. When something inside you says, this doesn't belong here anymore, listen. Peace feels light, safe, quiet. Wrong energy feels heavy, loud, draining, even in silence. Your home should support your spirit, not challenge it. And when an object begins to disrupt that balance, it's not asking for fear, it's asking to be released. Because intuition always notices first, and it never speaks without reason. Awareness is only the beginning. Once you recognize that an object carries heavy or unwanted energy, the real work begins, not with fear, but with intention. Because not every object needs to be destroyed, but every attachment must be addressed. Energy does not respond to force, it responds to clarity. The first step is cleansing. Cleansing is not about superstition, it is about resetting an object's energetic memory. Across cultures and centuries, people have used simple tools for this: smoke, water, sound, and prayer. These methods work because they interrupt stagnation and invite movement. You cleanse by being present, by focusing your intention, by acknowledging what the object has absorbed and declaring that it no longer serves that purpose. Even something as simple as holding the object and calmly stating, "I release any energy that does not belong to me," can begin the process. The second step is intention setting. Energy follows direction. Objects need to know their role in your space. When you set intention, you are reprogramming the environment. You are telling your home what it is allowed to hold: peace, rest, creativity, safety. Place the object in sunlight. Rearrange the room. Create space around it. Speak your intention clearly, not with anger, but with authority. Intention does not need volume, it needs certainty. Sometimes, however, cleansing is not enough. Some objects have completed their purpose. They have carried too much. They belong to a chapter that has already ended. This is when removal becomes an act of respect, not rejection. Releasing an object does not mean you are ungrateful. It means you are choosing growth over attachment. You thank it for what it carried, then let it go. Disposal should be done mindfully, not in panic, not in fear, but with calm acknowledgement. When possible, avoid passing the object to someone else. Release it completely so the energy does not continue its journey. The moment an attachment is broken, something shifts. Rooms feel lighter, breathing feels easier, sleep deepens, tension softens, arguments lose their edge. It's subtle but unmistakable. This is balance returning. The goal is not to control energy, but to live in harmony with it. Your home is an extension of your inner world. When objects carry unresolved energy, they interrupt that harmony. When they are cleansed, released, or respectfully removed, the space begins to support you again. You don't need elaborate rituals. You don't need fear. You don't need to understand everything. You only need awareness and intention. Energy listens, and when you take responsibility for what surrounds you, you reclaim ownership of your peace. Because your home should feel like safety, like rest, like clarity. And when you release what no longer belongs, you make space for what does. Not everything must be destroyed, but nothing unresolved should remain.